Not only was Jim Jones deceived, but he was also televised. One minute he was sitting in court like a king, and the next Cameron hit play on a USB, and that was Chrissy at a hotel, wearing heels and a hoodie. Room with another person, caught on. Camera giggling and uttering the words Jim doesn't understand, so let him remain foolish. Have you ever witnessed a man's heart leave his body? Jim didn't blink, didn't talk, and didn't speak. Mama Jones froze Cameron, smirking as if he had waited 10 years, and he only stared at the television as if it were the funeral of his sanity. Now question, how many more clips does Cam have? This wasn't accidentally released. It was a smash and an emotional performance, and Chrissy knew the camera was rolling. Love or a lengthy scam, and how do you move on when everyone watches your life fall apart in 4K? Hold on tight, because Jim Jones won't be returning after this. It all began with a USB, and Jim Jones was shown folded in a courtroom chair with his hands shaking and his soul half out of his body. The film was clear and time-stamped. It wasn't grainy or a "maybe that's her moment." Was recorded outside the Moran Hotel in Soho at 9:13 p.m. Chrissy pulled a hoodie over her head, as if someone had anticipated it would eventually be shown in court, glancing from side to side as if the city was observing her breathing, and the man who opened the door was not Jim. Reggie was inside that suite, and admirers began chatting about her name. Chrissy claimed that the man who was connected to a muffled jail call months prior was merely an acquaintance. But this video showed complete betrayal in high definition, and the moment Cameron, you could sense the energy change as you handed that USB to the court clerk. The room grew chilly, and Jim sat up more erect as if he already knew it deep down. However, knowing and seeing are two different things. Many forms of suffering, because Chrissy turned back towards the hallway as soon as she entered the hotel room and muttered into her phone, "Jim still believes I'm at my relative's. He's that simple." The courtroom erupted in tension, not loudly, and Cam reclined in his chair like a guy who had been waiting 10 years for karma to cash the check. Jim sat as if his skeleton had melted, breathing slowly and without words, his eyes glassy, and then he collapsed with one hand on his chest and one arm, hanging from the chair, and the courtroom exploded as bailiffs hurried in, calling for EMTs. Chrissy sat still as if she were witnessing a scenario she had seen 100 times before. But Cam didn't. That was only the first 37 seconds of the clip. The rest of it was filled with lies, quiet, and the ride or die narrative that was created for reality TV. Undone, the video shifts to the inside of the room, where a playlist and 2 glasses of wine are playing on the speaker. Chrissy is giggling, softly, and adds, "This is with you. I don't feel like I'm suffocating in someone else's life, where I breathe." That statement struck a chord because Jim was on 3 different podcasts last year, referring to Chrissy as his oxygen on day 1, and the reason I survived. Now he's hearing her state that she felt dead inside of him, according to insiders. Although Chrissy was aware of the camera, the room belonged to a friend of Reggie's who routinely took precautionary videos. She was surprised that Cameron would eventually obtain the tape. It's still unknown how he obtained it. Some claim Cam had someone on the inside, while others think Reggie lost it after Chrissy abandoned him last month. Regardless, Cameron ended up with the one thing no one could ever have: believe there was evidence, and it wasn't just any evidence. It was unquestionably scandalous and emotionally devastating. According to court records, Cam filed the USB as part of a defamation lawsuit alleging that Jim attempted to defame him during a 2022 VH1 production meeting. But legal squabbles aside, this wasn't about the court. Rather, it was about retaliation, and Cam didn't just serve it cold. He served it in front of Jim's mother because, yes, Mama Jones was present in court. She sprang up so quickly after Jim struck the ground that security believed she was going to attack Chrissy, saying, "You lied." Before being led away, she said, "To my son, you used him." And TMZ saw her pacing the pavement while shouting into her phone, "This is why I never trusted that woman I told Jim day 1, she said. As EMTs assessed Jim's vitals and verified he hadn't experienced a heart attack, the judge had to halt the trial for a whole hour inside. She'd ruined him, just a collapse brought on by trauma. The internet exploded in music seconds after Cameron revealed the Chrissy Hotel tape. Within 20 minutes of the release, all of the memes featuring Jim Jones's breakdown went viral. One of them featured Jim's face on a mattress with the remark, "Bro got folded like the sheets Chrissy left in the hotel." Another featured Cameron grinning like Thanos while clutching the USB and the final Infinity Stone. But this wasn't only a Twitter joke session, since the DA halted the trial once more and drew the judge aside when the entire 4-minute movie began to play. The reason for this was that the footage wasn't only proof of infidelity, which reportedly exposed potential obstruction of justice. As you can see, the court was already looking into Chrissy's involvement in a closed charity fraud case, and she makes mention to this in the hotel film. Translation: Reggie helped me clean that mess up, and I told them it was a donation. What began as a reality TV show may now face more charges. A possible federal case has sprung from heartbreak, and Cam wasn't finished because, when the judge called for break, Cam got up, turned to face Jim, and said, "I told you she wasn't loyal. I just gave you what you needed to heal." Jim remained motionless and stared straight ahead as if the entire world had gone silent. And Chrissy Shia, courtroom lip reader, sitting 3 seats behind her, claims that she leaned over to her lawyer and whispered something, saying, "Tell the judge I was drunk. That clip is out of context." Out of context, girl? It was 4K multi-angle with audio, but we're only getting started since Cam's legal team will be there when the court reconvenes next week. Claims that 2 more clips and a voicemail that was leaked from Chrissy to Mona Scott will be submitted. If even half of the rumors about that call are accurate, Jim Jones won't be the only one who loses everything. When break ended, the courtroom was still bustling, but no one was prepared for what was about to happen because just as everyone was catching up, the whole VH1 franchise will be on fire. Their breath from the hotel tape, Cameron's attorney got to his feet and said 7 words that stopped the judge in his tracks. "We have more video and an audio recording." You could hear the murmurs. Chrissy turned pale. Jim didn't even look up, and Mama Jones had to be forcefully held before she could return to the courtroom as suspicion rippled through the throng like a tsunami. Cam's lawyer calmed down after the procedure, and the judge moved forward to ask for explanation. This is a message that Ms. Lampkin left on Mona Scott Young's phone 3 weeks prior to the video being recorded. The clerk played the voicemail, and in 10 seconds, jaws dropped Chrissy's voicemail, revealing that this was not only an infidelity scandal, but was on the verge of becoming a franchise-ending plot. "Mona, your voice is perfectly clear. I told you that if Jim discovers that the entire season is ruined, Cam won't be able to know either. He will utilize it. I need you to deal with the room film, which Reggie claimed was erased." Chrissy's lawyer got up in a panic as the tree judge paused the recording, saying, "Handle the footage, tell Mona to bury it, and call it season ruining." Protesting, but it was too late. The court had heard enough, and Cam was no longer even grinning. He was locked in because the voicemail not only demonstrated that Chrissy had cheated, but also that she was aware that she would be discovered and attempted to remove it with assistance from the top, which implied a cover-up, manipulation, and maybe meddling in an ongoing. Even the BIFs appeared shaken at this point, and Jim eventually raised his head, his eyes blank, and stared straight at Chrissy as if he had forgotten who she was. The second recording began, and this time it wasn't from the hotel. It was about the woman he bought rings for, wept over on red carpets, and battled producers to defend, from within a Love and Hip Hop New York trailer that had been secretly released months previously by an unidentified crew member. The video showed Chrissy and Yandy conversing behind the scenes. Chrissy stated, "I'm not dumb. I know Jim's loyal, but loyalty don't fix bored Reggie makes me feel," on what was intended to be a laid-back day, but there was nothing informal about their chat. "Mona is aware that if this leaks, I'm out." Yandy's response, "Girl, you're playing with fire. You know Cam despises him, and you get caught. This isn't just a controversy, it's war." That tape struck a particular chord since the public was now observing strategy rather than infidelity, such as how the entire Chrissy and Jim romance was a staged brand rather than a genuine bond, and worse, it revealed Mona, because what else had producers fabricated by now if they were aware of this months prior and continued to film the engagement special while promoting the forever love angle? Social media was in Chrissy's name was trending with liability setup queen Judas and Mama Jones in Lubbock towns, and blogs were on fire and fans were swapping sides in real time. She cried, "That woman ruined my son's life. She's a snake, and I want VH1 to burn with her," as she rushed past security and into the corridor outside the court where TMZ cameras were waiting. Security tried to stop her, but the damage was done. The footage went viral in minutes. One TikTok even stitched the hotel clip with Mama Jones's rant and captioned it, "When your mother was correct all along." However, things became more gloomy back in court since Cam's attorney rose up once more after the second clip's audio finished playing. He presented the judge with a written email, a screenshot, and a paper trail, saying, "This is an email from Chrissy's account asking for the removal of footage from a private server connected to the media cloud of Mona Scott." The judge said, "Read the email," and the chamber fell silent once more. Chrissy's palms began to tell Reggie to keep his mouth shut. In it, she allegedly wrote, "I need that room wiped by Monday. If it gets out, Jim won't recover, neither will the show." Now it was beyond cheating. This was manipulation. This was a media hit job gone awry. Jim got to his feet, shaking, and asked Chrissy a single question. Was this all true? Chrissy glanced down, her lips twitching, and she said nothing. That quiet was louder than any confession, because perhaps something would have remained if she had said yes. The answer was stillness, and Cameron didn't flinch because he had already won. This wasn't only retaliation, it was surgical demolition. Hooray Judge interrupted proceedings once more, but this time it wasn't due to turmoil. However, the network was now involved since VH1's legal team abruptly asked to speak in court. A man in a gray outfit is their representative. "We believe some of this footage was unlawfully obtained, and its release may violate confidentiality clauses within existing laws," he said, perspiring through his collar. Agreements. Translation. Cam had blown up their golden pair, exposing producer manipulation, and they were in a panic, showed that the whole romance was a ticking time bomb, but the judge wasn't concerned in preserving TV contracts. He addressed Chrissy directly. "Did you try to meddle in this court's investigation by deceiving or suppressing the media?" Chrissy stammered, but her attorney protested. The judge continued, and her voice broke at that point. "I didn't want for it to get this far. I was just afraid of losing Jim, of being discovered, of seeing the lie come to light. But it's too late now because the court had an additional surprise. A text message that Reggie sent to a buddy, she played me too, was released from a burner phone that Cam's team subpoenaed. Leave him now that I'm the antagonist and Cam was cut off. I should have cut the other clips, but she pleaded with me not to, so there were more at the end of the day. The entire world watched as a lone man carrying the burden of an unfulfilled love and a betrayal left the courthouse, looking like a ghost, with Chrissy by his side, Mona by his side, and no security. On Live Outside, a reporter asked Cam one last question. "Do you think Jim deserved this?" Cam stared into the lens and replied, "No." However, sometimes the truth doesn't care who it breaks, and he left after saying that because only one man emerged from the courtroom unbeaten in this game of love, loyalty, and cameras. And the saddest part is that it's not. Even the following morning, the video had already shown on every screen throughout America. The clips were blended with melancholy music, stitched, rearranged, slowed down, and transformed into much more quickly than Chrissy could grab her publicist Jim Jones's face. The frozen expression of treachery had come to represent not only heartache, but embarrassment. And despite the fact that supporters were split on the internet, it was evident that no one was still believing the miscommunication angle. This was a whole operation, not just a rumor gone bad. People were rewatching the love story with fresh eyes and identifying the warning signs in HD by bringing up past interviews, tweets, and moments from previous seasons. One clip even reappeared, the tie. Court wasn't finished when Mama Jones informed Chrissy directly, "You don't love my son, you love the camera." That comment is currently on t-shirts. Even near, since the legal mess was louder than the emotional destruction, VH1's internal communications were unexpectedly subpoenaed when Cameron's legal team filed an emergency move. Since Reggie, the person Chrissy was secretly seeing, was a post-production worker, you can guess who approved the video changes for the Chrissy and Jim spinoff. Yes, Reggie. That led to a thorough investigation into possible fraud. If producers changed plots to hide genuine drama and edited film to maintain a brand that isn't merely dubious, that's civil. Production momentarily broke down, and Mona Scott Young unfollowed Chrissy if there was fraud involving contracts, Addie, money, or misleading representations of cast members. When Mona stops writing the script in the middle of the story, you know something is wrong. But this is where things went too far. Jim Jones's attorney filed a request to sue Chrissy for emotional distress. Let it sink in. Jim was now legally turning against her after years of being her partner, her protector, and her man. The documents weren't light either, included canceled appearances, lost brand deals, and, most damning of all, unreleased video that Jim had consented to shoot for a Netflix documentary series, but that would never be shown due to the loss estimate for the scandal. $2. $3 million. And it doesn't include what happened next, as Chrissy's own ex, Marcus, appeared out of nowhere. According to an exclusive with a gossip website, someone from her past claimed that Chrissy always had a fallback plan and that Jim was never the endgame. He was the exposure, and he even displayed voicemails and texts, including one where Chrissy the architect went viral after supposedly saying, "Jim's career is cute, but I'm trying to build mine Q internet combustion blogs ran wild." And Cam was just warming up because Cameron released the teaser for his own documentary One, as the court was considering motions and sealing evidence. Chrissy's voice appears in a 30-second teaser black screen video that was shared on Instagram, with the comment, "You saw the courtroom, now see the full truth coming soon," murmuring, "If this gets out, Jim's going to leave me, don't let Cam find out." Then boom, cut to Cameron's face saying, "I found out." That video had over 5 million views. In 4 hours, Jim remained silent, but his mother did. That evening, Mama Jones paced her living room while containing her anger and tears, saying, "You break my son, you break me, Chrissy." Chrissy sat silent, made no statement, and offered no apology. "You were family, and I called you daughter. Now, look what you did. You allowed the devil in, and he was wearing a pink coat. That wasn't just shade, it was war. Because silence only works when the world isn't busy, sometimes silence is the only response that people deserve." One Instagram story with a black background and white lettering, by day 4, the court had resumed, and the judge was no longer acting as a mediator. He was furious because more evidence had come to light, this time from someone Olivia Longot, a longtime quiet observer and former cast member, presented a sworn declaration claiming to have seen Chrissy and Reggie in a holding hands and disputing over being quiet in a hotel lobby back in 2022. She claimed Chrissy remarked to her, "I'm only doing what Mona won't, Jim's too blind to realize that I'm not created for eternity." That wasn't merely treachery, that was deliberate fraud. And this is where things went crazy. VH1 attempted to prevent the video from airing any further. They sent cease and the internet doesn't forget, and Cam wasn't afraid. So he went despite bloggers' attempts to stop YouTube breaks and even temporary injunctions to stop the documentary Cameron teased live, grinning, drinking, and saying, "Let them try." The truth has already been revealed. This isn't their story anymore, it's mine. Jim, meanwhile, ceased appearing in court, not because he didn't care, but rather because he was at his breaking point. His team issued a brief during this time. Mr. Jones is concentrating on his mental health and requests seclusion. Suddenly, the victim and the criminal switched places. Since Chrissy went from being engaged to the series has been terminated. The legal battles are ongoing and the fans are demanding accountability. But one thing is certain, this controversy broke more than a relationship. It destroyed a brand, revealed a franchise, and revealed the true consequences of love turning into a commodity and loyalty into leverage. One fan wrote on Twitter, "It hip-hop and the best love were never real. But this suffering, the repercussions, and the quiet are more genuine than anything that was ever shown on television." You know what? They're correct. Because only the actual damage, the type that doesn't diminish in the following episode or cut to commercial, remains after the smoke clears and the editing stops, kind that keeps playing whenever someone uploads a Chrissy hotel video to YouTube. We now wonder if it was worth it. The hotel secret, the camera lies. The career was destroyed under the weight of betrayal for Jim. That response reverberates in his silence, and for Chrissy, it's already recorded in the video, regardless of how hard they attempt to conceal it or change it. The entire world witnessed it, and nobody turned away. With the mask off, the cameras turned off, and the truth exposed, what will happen next? Does Chrissy disappear into silence, believing that time will achieve what apologies cannot? And Cameron is this? Jones walks away from all the fame, the sorrow, the treachery, and finally begin mending on his own terms. To be honest, if this was only a single tape, what else might be concealed in those files? This wasn't a one-time retribution drop, but does he have more in the vault? More in the vault? Simply another instance of love and hip-hop. But this was a complete collapse, with a reality TV empire collapsing under the weight of secrets and receipts, together with a USB stick that accomplished more harm than 1,000 fists. Never could. Therefore, you must do this. Leave a comment below with your ideas. Who do you think is to blame? And most crucially, who will come next? Because if this, the lesson that the saga has imparted to us is that no, when the truth begins to surface, one is safe. Be sure to press the like button if you were glued to this. Please subscribe so you don't miss the next shocking revelation. Turn on and believe me, it's coming. Notifications due to the actual drama never longer occurs on television. Instead, it occurs. The truth doesn't get through here. Edit it out. This is only the start. Additionally, if you're still seeing, you're already included in the narrative.